If God already knows what I'm going to do I actually have free will?
No, and that's why your logic is flawed.
No, it's not.
Explain.
Because it's both.
Wow. What a deep and meaningful answer.
The problem is you're thinking like Western philosophers, not like the church fathers.
That's what you say every time.
Because it's true. Augustine, Aquinas, Western Christianity argues that God's knowledge forces a certain outcome. But Orthodoxy says God's knowledge doesn't impose necessity.
You've been reading. Good. But if you really want to understand this, you should read St. Maximus the Confessor.
Who?
A 7th century church father. He defended free will against heretics who said that because Christ was fully God, he didn't have real human choices. Maximus argued that Christ had two wills, divine and human, and freely obeyed the Father's will. That's how salvation works. We don't lose our will, we align it with God's. St. Maximus said, God does not impose necessity on our choices, but desires that we choose him freely. Free will isn't about whether God knows, it's about whether we submit or defy.
But if God already knows, isn't it all predetermined anyway?
What do you think?
John 8:32. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
So you're saying free will only matters if we choose truth?
Exactly. If we aren't choosing truth, we're just choosing whatever the world feeds us. And the world makes that choice easy. Comfort over conviction, what feels good over what is actually right.
So knowing the truth isn't enough? We have to be willing to act on it?
That's right. But knowing the truth doesn't guarantee you'll follow it. Let's try this. Imagine you're playing chess against a grandmaster, one of the best players in the world. He knows all the possible moves you can make. Based on your patterns, skill level, and decisions, he can probably predict exactly how the game will end.
Okay.
But does that mean he forced you to make those moves?
No. I could still move however I wanted.
Exactly. The Grandmaster's knowledge of how the game will likely end doesn't remove your ability to choose your moves. He isn't controlling your hands. He isn't forcing a decision. But because he understands the game at a level you don't, he already knows the likely outcome before you do.
And that's what God's knowledge is like. He already knows the full board, every move we could ever make, but he doesn't force us to play a certain way.
And that's what makes free will meaningful. God's knowledge doesn't impose necessity, but he knows every possible path we take, and he calls us to choose rightly.
You actually made a good point. So truth isn't just about knowing what's right, it's about seeing reality for what it is. And once we see it, we're the ones who decide what to do with it.
Exactly. But modernity makes that harder. Because today, we're told truth is whatever we want it to be. And when people stop believing in absolute truth, they end up choosing the wrong path without even realizing it. The wrong path doesn't always feel wrong at first. It promises freedom, but it slowly traps you. People think they're in control, but really, they're just following whatever the world feeds them. Before we start tearing apart bad theology, you should probably know who we are. Welcome to the Sinclair family. Some families bond over sports, we bond over theology, and well, arguing. I break things down to their core. If the argument isn't logical, it's not worth believing.
And yet, somehow, you still manage to miss the bigger picture. I don't follow rules. I test them. If a belief can't stand up to pressure, then it was never solid to begin with.
And that's why they need me. When the debate gets chaotic, I keep us grounded. No distractions, no nonsense, just focus.
And I make sure they don't anchor themselves in the wrong place. Orthodoxy isn't just about having the right answers. It's about standing firm in the truth.
Fair enough. But I still say you need people willing to shake things up.
Which is your way of saying me, without admitting it. We're not here just to argue. We're here because modern Christianity is falling apart.
Christianity today is either a self-help brand or a political movement, and neither of those are what Christ taught.
The church has existed for 2,000 years, and yet most people only know the last 500.
We're not here to reinvent Christianity. We're here to bring it back to what it was.
Because if you don't question what you've been told, you'll never find the truth.
Explain to me how a book compiled by the church somehow has authority over the church that wrote it.
Because people would rather have a book they can interpret themselves than a church that tells them when they're wrong.
If you reject tradition, then congratulations, you just became your own pope.
So what you're saying is every Protestant is their own Council of Nicaea.
How can people say denominations don't matter when Paul literally said, "Let there be no divisions among you"?
Because it's easier to call division a preference than to admit you're outside the church. People act like orthodoxy is just for Greeks, Russians, and Arabs because that's all they've ever heard about. But Christianity has been in Africa for over 1,600 years.
So why don't more people know that?
Because history isn't just told, it's shaped. Those in power decide what's remembered and what's forgotten.
Funny how they leave that part out, huh?
If you made it this far, you probably enjoy challenging ideas just as much as we do.
Or you just like watching people argue.
Either way, you're in the right place.
The modern world has watered down Christianity. We're here to bring back the depth, the history, and the truth that has been preserved for over 2,000 years.
Truth isn't always easy to find, but it's worth searching for. If this video challenged you, made you think, or opened up new questions, let's keep the conversation going. Drop your thoughts in the comments, whether you agree, disagree, or have more questions. I want to hear them. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into faith, history, and the unseen connections that shape our world. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you want to help this channel grow, share this video, because the more people question, the closer we get to truth. Christ is King.